Hey guys, this is Gail Kim from Impact Wrestling, and you are listening to the 8-Bit Suplex Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for tuning into another episode of the 8-Bit Suplex. You heard her just there talking over my introduction, but here she is as always every week. Sandy Gaviria is here. Sandy, how are you?
Lord, hi! Don't mind me.
No, it's fine. Just step all over my introduction. It's totally fine.
So that was my bad.
That's okay, but you know what? Sandy, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. I'm very excited. So much craziness happening in the world of wrestling, and I cannot wait to break it down with you and everyone that hears. So maybe they can share the same exact excitement that we have. Woo, I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, it's pretty. It was certainly not a good week for me to be playing hockey every night of the week. That's for sure. Because I got to watch everything a day late, but that's okay. Because my hockey games were all wins this week, so. I played 8 games in 6 days, and we won all 8 games. So
that's freaking awesome! Congrats.
Yeah. No, thank you. So, but I don't want to waste any more time. Before we're joined here by a third party, someone we've mentioned on the show quite a bit. But joining us for the first time is Mr. Logan. Logan, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you guys for having me on.
Oh, it's great to have you. You've been a background character for the visual portion of this podcast many times, but since this is an audio format that doesn't come across very well, except for to Sandy and I. But yeah, so Logan also is a wrestler in training over at the Lethal Academy with Sandy.
Whoa.
So hang on. Well,
2 years, bro. 2 years.
Okay, so listen. I'm sorry. Do you have a contract or?
Oh shit! We are shooting promos, huh?
No, I kid. No, I kid. No, but yeah, no, Logan. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your wrestling career so far, and what 2020 has kind of looked like from a local independent wrestler perspective.
You know what? We took a nice long break, and I put on the Quarantine 15, and it really sucked because it came right as WrestleMania was coming into town. So I had, I think, 13 or 14 bookings over the course of like 5 or 6 days that WrestleMania week, and then everything just kind of went to hell. Am I allowed to cuss on this?
Yeah.
By the way? Okay, yeah, everything went to shit. And
we mark every episode explicit. Don't worry.
Sweet. But then things kind of slowly but surely picked back up, and I've had surprisingly a lot more matches than I thought I would have in 2020. Just mainly all over Florida. We just made our way out to Georgia, so that was fun. That was surreal. It's like it's like COVID never even hit them, or at least they just refused to accept it. So,
in Georgia?
Yeah, in Georgia. They were like, fuck a mask. That was fun. But yeah, it's been great. It's been, yeah. How's it been fighting Little League teams in hockey games?
Oh,
hey,
boy.
Oh, beef.
It's been pretty good, except, the 12-year-olds really put up a good fight. And listen, I'm going to state it for the record. I could not skate around 12-year-olds. Those kids are really fast.
Right?
Those kids can move.
I can't skate.
And they've actually been playing hockey their whole lives. And, I took a break in the middle portion of my life from 8 until, 25. So I lost out on some training time there. But without further ado, because we got a lot, like, Sandy mentioned, we got a lot of wrestling to get to. So we want to dive right in. And we're going to start Tuesday with Impact because we had a pretty loaded episode here. Logan, we like to ask all of our guests kind of what their experience is with TNA Impact and how much you watched before, how much you're watching now, that kind of stuff. I assume that you watch a good amount of it now, since you probably watch it with Sandy.
I do.
But before doing that, what was kind of your experience watching TNA?
So I got into wrestling the super mainstream way, where WWE was the only option. I didn't know anything about independent wrestling. So when my first and earliest experience of it was TNA Impact was the devil. Like that was it was
Right.
yeah. I remember watching it one or two times, but that was when Dixie Carter and Hogan were running it, so it was not my favorite thing in the world. But I was pleasantly surprised when Sandy started watching it again, and I got back into it. I really, really like it. I like it as an alternative product, and I really like that they have a really good, consistent work rate roster, but they don't take themselves too seriously. Like they have the sillier kind of segments, which I think is important because it's wrestling. Like it's like
Right.
we don't have to take it so fucking seriously, you know. But
I agree.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a breath of fresh air. It's really nice.
Yeah, no, I mean it is it's a bunch of adults rolling around in tights. So,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, so we enjoy it. We enjoy the product as well, and I'm glad to hear you're enjoying your kind of weekly duty there and watching alongside. But this card kicks off with two of my favorite tag teams currently on the Impact roster. We go right into the action with the Motor City Machine Guns taking on the team of Larry D and of course AC Romero, team Triple XL. Although according to social media, Larry D actually fits into an extra large shirt now, so they may need to scale back the name of that tag team. They've both been losing a bunch of weight. But listen, this is the longest match I think I've seen Triple XL go. The match is about 9.5 minutes long. I thought it was excellent. But Sandy, I'll throw it to you for your notes first.
Dude, it was such a great match. We've seen this kind of storyline starting with Chris Sabin while Alex Shelley was out, with Triple XL, and now we finally see the tag on tag match that it's been building up, not in a huge storyline type of way, but it's like, hey, these two are gonna go out and we're gonna get to see what they can do. And like we mentioned before, there's always this attitude between how big guys against little guys, how those matches should be, and it's always like a squash. And we've seen with Chris Sabin, I think it was AC Romero that he went up against go. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Both of them could look great, and this match was fantastic at showcasing the strength and the size of Triple XL, but also Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, of course, they're vets. They're freaking amazing. They know how to work, and they looked amazing. They both just looked absolutely fantastic. Triple XL, I just thought had an absolutely great showing, and I loved it. And I love that they got the little extra time, because I know I was thinking about that now that you mentioned it. I was like, hey, I think this is the longest we've actually been able to see these, Triple XL go at it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was just kind of like, I don't like to say I'm clock watching or anything when I'm watching a match, but you can kind of start to feel how long those matches are starting to go. And I didn't feel like it was over long. I was just kind of like, we've been watching this for a while. Okay, I'm okay with this. But yeah, Logan, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good too. I mean, anytime the Machine Guns wrestle, I always get my notepad out. But yeah, I hadn't really seen too much from Triple XL, only just like the the short stints in the squash matches and stuff like that. So that was nice to be able to see them go. And I was really impressed with how good their timing was and how cohesive they are as a team. I wasn't really too sure how that was going to play out, but I thought it was really, really good. Machine Guns are always super impressive. They've always got. I feel like they could have good matches with anyone, and that's not a knock on Triple XL, but man, yeah. They.
But you know what I get? I don't know what happens backstage. I'm not there. I'm not friends with these people. I don't know them. I'm just a fan of the show, watching it for our podcast. But I feel like, I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley really can appreciate the way these big guys work, and I feel like maybe there was some kind of backstage thing where they're like, hey, we wanna work with you guys, and I know we can have a great match. It kind of felt like they had that chemistry of we can see you guys can go with us. Let's do it. Let's show them what we can do.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's one thing to be able to work, working face because Triple XL is a face team, right?
No,
they kind of had a mild heel turn. It's kind of a tweener situation.
Okay. Well, regardless, working a team with two big guys is difficult because normally you have the smaller guy that you can isolate and, you have a couple of go-to spots that you can do with the big guy. But when it's two small guys against two big guys, those can be kind of difficult to call. But I feel like they did manage to pull it off really, really well. And it didn't come across as, them. You didn't have to suspend disbelief any more than you normally would watching a wrestling match,
Yeah, one spot in particular sticks out where I believe Sabin hit the drop toe hold and Romero was able to stay on his feet, and then Shelley came through with the bulldog. And I might have gotten Shelley and Sabin crossed in my mind.
It was Shelley that cool. Did the drop toe hold. You know what's so funny? That's exactly what we said. We watched that and we're like, stolen.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Well, these guys acting, but I was like, oh my god, that's I've never seen a bulldog come from, doing a drop toe hold, hit the ropes, and then do it. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, no, and it's it's showing that it doesn't matter the body type. I think you can innovate and still push professional wrestling to better, bigger and better things. And back to what you were saying, Sandy, about the machine guns, it seems that they've been that way with pretty much every tag team that they've come across. That they kind of seem to be that, and I hate to use the cliche of locker room leader, right? But they seem to be it's just, they've been around forever, and especially been around TNA Impact forever. So when they come across these teams, like I know they've been working really hard, training with the Rascals and different things like that. So I think that's why you see the Rascals, who unfortunately have left Impact Wrestling. Well, at least Dez and Wentz have. We don't know where Trey Miguel is yet, but Dez and Wentz, of course, obviously have gone off to NXT. Which, we'll see some good matches out of them there for sure. But, definitely Shelley and Sabin, hats off to them for continuing to crank out good match after good match. But, yeah, I really liked it. Great effort around.
A great opening match.
It really set the tone for the whole night. And then we get a little bit of a parking lot shot coming right out of that, where Sami Callihan and Ken Shamrock are walking into the building to be greeted by Scott D'Amore and the team of local independent wrestlers dressed as security, and they inform Ken Shamrock that he is in fact suspended 30 days for giving that potato to D'Lo Brown last week. Yeah, it was interesting to see. I'm not sure why they need to keep Ken Shamrock off of TV for a month. I think you could probably just leave him off for a month and no one would ask why.
No.
But
I want to work this month, and they were like, all right, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I feel like you could probably just let that happen. But yeah, it's interesting too. Sammy seems to have another plan, of course, up his sleeve for Ken being gone for 30 days. So we'll see what happens there. But that's immediately followed up with my best friend, Tommy Dreamer, who has now switched jobs once again and is now the wrestling police officer.
Dude, I love it.
The more I watch, the more I feel like Tommy Dreamer just kind of shows up and tells the producers, hey, this is what I'm doing tonight. And they're all just kind of like, I guess so.
Tonight, I feel like playing a police officer.
Just let Tommy Dreamer do what Tommy Dreamer wants to do.
At this point, Tommy's just continuing to he's not really putting himself over. Obviously, he's getting booked, but he's definitely putting over everyone else on the roster as much as he can by making himself look as goofy as possible. And we all know, like, the Tommy Dreamer is, pretty legendary for his backstage stuff, finding talent, putting talent over and always being that guy. And he continues to find new ways to do that without having to get on an airplane, because it's been reported that he cannot actually sit and coach anymore because his body will cease being that kind of constrained. But yeah, no, interesting segment though for Tommy. And of course he gets beat up by Larry D. So we'll see kind of where that goes next. But Sandy, why don't you take us through here on the Knockouts Tag Team Tournament match that we got here?
Dude, I was so excited. So we have Renee, Michelle, and Killer Kelly come out. They're working as a tag team. Last week we got to see not very much from Killer Kelly, unfortunately. Like we discussed, we wanted to see more of what she can do, and this match we definitely got to see that. But we have them against Jordan Grace and Jazz. Jazz looks amazing. She looks so bad. By bad I mean badass. And right from the start we have Jordan and Kelly. They have a great exchange, just chain wrestling, lots of quick pins, lots of escapes. They do the whole standoff after they kind of go right in. It's like, all right, kind of testing each other out. That looked so good. I want Jordan and Killer Kelly one-on-one on a long match somewhere down the line, because them two together from the start, I was super impressed. Of course, we all know Jordan can go at it. Killer Kelly is great, but those two together, holy shit, I want more. Um, this
Yeah.
match, though, I thought was absolutely phenomenal. At the end, we do see Jazz getting the pin over Renee, and they advance to the next round. Jazz still got it. She looked tough, and she looked bad in there. She didn't do too much. I think she took like a bump, maybe two. But I don't blame her.
Yeah, she's earned it.
Yeah, of course. And it was a great showing from both teams. I've never seen Renee Michelle wrestle before, but I thought she did great in there. She has a great sexy look, and I thought, she was just gonna go in there to sell, but you know what? She can go too. I thought, man, this was a great showing from both of them, and I'm glad they got to go. I'm not sure. Do you have the time on this match? I think they went.
They went
fairly-
8 minutes 53 seconds. So they went just a little bit less than the other tag match. So they went a
It
while.
felt,
In a bad way.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Jordan and Jazz are definitely the Haas team, so to speak. They definitely are out there just to just be a bruiser, right? I like Killer Kelly a lot. I felt like the match was better when she was in it. But I kind of always
Yeah.
felt like that Renee Michelle was going to be eating the pin no matter what. But yeah, I mean, Renee Michelle, she's been around. Cage Match has her first match back in 2014. So, she's been around. She's done a lot of stuff kind of in the indies. She's spent some time in Japan. So I think she's definitely got some more to come, so to
Nice.
speak, out of her. And then I think she was also in the Mae Young Classic,
Oh yeah, she was in the very first one.
the first one. And she lost
Yep.
to, of course, Candice LeRae.
Mm.
And she is also the real life spouse of Drake Maverick.
And she was just in Tampa. She wrestled in the Diamond Cup at GCW this past yesterday.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
what? My sense of time.
Dude, yeah.
This past month, and it's like yesterday.
This whole year is kind of screwy. You could have told me it happened 2 weeks ago. I would have believed you. But yeah, no, a really good match. Everything Jazz does looked great. Everything that Jordan did looked great. Everything that Kelly did looked great. And Renee, they had some pretty cool stuff too. But she definitely was 4th out of 4 in that match. But that's not a knock. I mean, she was in there with 3 other really really talented women. And of course, Jazz and Jordan Grace get the win, and they'll advance on to face against what is really another Haas kind of tag team in Havoc and Nevaeh. So we'll see what happens there. I kind of feel like they didn't pull Jazz out for just one more match, so I have a feeling they'll be going on to the finals, but we'll see kind of there. I want to get your thoughts real quick, Logan, if you have anything to add here that Sandy and I haven't already touched on for this tag match.
No. Jazz scares the shit out of me. She's a terrifying woman, but in the best way possible. I think the only other thing was when Killer Kelly caught 2 of Jordan Grace's punches. And I thought in my head, if Jordan Grace wants to punch you, Jordan Grace is going to punch you. That's the only thing that I thought was a little weird. But other than
because
that,
of her size.
not only that, but she just looks like she could kick the shit out of you. Like both that
Right.
team.
Both of them. Yeah.
Like if they caught me down a dark alley, I'm running. Like
God, I just love Killer. Killer Kelly looks like a freaking killer.
with the black.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love her.
She looks very much like someone that they could sign tomorrow and immediately put into the title picture.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I think they probably kind of should. Because just because, obviously they're still trying to, fill that, it feels like the women's division, the Knockouts division, singles title at least, has kind of gotten a little stagnant since Kylie Ray is not in that picture. So they definitely could use an injection of a fresh storyline element there, and why not throw Killer Kelly out there? I'm not saying put the title on her, but I'm saying she could definitely mix it up in there with Deonna Purrazzo pretty good.
Oh, heck.
That would be a match that I would absolutely love to see. I do want to just point out the flashback moment of the week, which kind of feels like foreshadowing now. because the flashback moment of the week is the Motor City Machine Guns versus Generation Me, who, of course, we now know today as the Young Bucks. We'll get to why that is foreshadowing later. But I thought this was an excellent clip. And I don't know about you guys, but anytime somebody builds contraptions out of unfolded or unput out tables and chairs and ladders, and that just makes me absolutely, absolutely nervous. Even as the clip shows, Chris Sabin pulling the belts down, he almost falls off the contraption,
That was
which
so stretchy.
it's I believe Edge and Christian and the Dudleys and the Hardys had a similar contraption in one of their TLC matches.
Yeah.
And I just listen. I get the thrill factor. I get why it's exciting. But it's just like, let's just don't hurt yourselves not taking a planned bump. All right.
Logan would 100% be on any one of those things
Oh,
any
absolutely.
day of the
Yeah.
night. So he does not share that same sentiment.
I thought it was
all up
awesome.
on
Yeah, I would.
No, it was a really cool spot. And then of course, whichever Jackson it was that fell off the platform through the table. I mean, that takes a hell of a lot of guts to just throw yourself off, essentially, to your demise through a table down. I don't know how do you think that contraption was? Probably 10 feet. I think it's probably around 10 feet or so. So, I mean,
Too much
so
higher than that.
yeah, at least 10, if not 15 feet up in the air, depending on how high those ladders were. But anyways, I thought, looking back, like I said, on that flashback moment now, it's a little bit tongue in cheek. But I didn't think anything of it because they throw out, AJ Styles in those moments, or Kurt Angle, or, whoever is, come and gone from TNA Impact. So, but definitely a cool flashback moment there. We get a long Ethan Page promo following that up. Sandy is a noted fan of All Ego Ethan Page. Logan, I'm gonna go to you for this because I know what Sandy's thoughts are on this promo. But what are your thoughts here on Ethan Page and his promo about the Good Brothers?
Oh, I'm a slut for a good promo, and I thought it was a great promo. He's a really, really good talker. I really liked him kind of losing his shit while his partner was in the background, like, what the hell is going on? I really like that vibe. I didn't get to see the previous week's Impacts, but
the one where he got beat up by Swoggle?
No, I didn't get to see that.
Oh.
But the thing is, though, from that promo, it gave me all of the information that I needed to know, so that was good. But the way he delivers and the energy that he has, I think, is just phenomenal. No pun intended.
He's a great actor.
Yeah, it's my older brother, Ethan Page.
Yeah, he actually cuts promos very much like Logan. Logan gets really intense, and it's like, oh my god. And they kind of look alike, too. Maybe that's why I love Ethan Page so much.
Our mustaches don't connect to our beards. Yeah,
mine doesn't either. Yeah, I don't know why that does that. Everything else on my face grows in pretty good, but not that mustache connection. I don't know what that is. Very strange.
But yeah, no, I thought it was really good. And the match with Carl Anderson, I bet, is going to be phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah, at our next final resolution, I believe is what it's called.
Yep.
That should, and that card, of course, is shaping up. We'll get into maybe early looks at that card, but we are so far out from it, and there's so much that has happened since this week's Impact that I don't know what that card is going to be or who is going to be on it and from what company. So we'll get through that. We'll get through that.
So think about. Oh my God, we'll get to that in the episode. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We are a little bit. We're gonna scream through these next couple of things because nothing I think of importance happened. We see Alicia Edwards, of course, the wife of Eddie Edwards, jump Sammy backstage, which we see her do these types of things, but never with Eddie in the same shot. I don't know why that happens that way. But even when she tried to, confront Eric Young back during that program, Eddie was not in the picture. He was out. He wasn't there. So anytime that Alicia comes through to defend Eddie's honor, it seems that he's just not there. I don't really know why. He's not out injured or anything, so there's no kayfabe reason either to not have him be the one trying to pull her off. But, and that's just,
Well,
I
I guess
guess,
technically he would be injured from that, from that bat to the face. They said he wasn't there. I remember the commentary and
did
saying,
they
"Hey,
say
Eddie
that? Okay,
Edwards."
maybe I missed that.
So he wasn't there for that, and then she got all crazy. And I could see why they wouldn't have her and her husband together for these things. Like, okay, we acknowledge that they're married, we acknowledge that they're a couple, they have kids, this and that, but I could understand them not putting her with Eddie all the time, as to not be like, oh, this is just Eddie's wife. She has her own character,
Right.
her own
No, that's a
persona.
good
She's her
point.
own character. But since they have acknowledged that they're a married couple, why wouldn't she go and attack Sammy for what he did to her husband? So I can
Yeah.
understand that.
Well, yeah, but if you're putting her in a situation where she's reacting to something that happened to Eddie, then like I get keeping them apart most of the time, but if you're going to directly involve her in a feud involving Eddie Edwards, then why not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily putting her in a feud. I think it's just her being like, "Shit, my husband got attacked by this asshole. I want to get my frustrations out."
Yeah, but they wouldn't film that for nothing. It's got to be leading to something else.
Maybe.
Unless
Yeah,
they
we'll
did,
see.
we're just
We'll see.
film this.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to get another Eddie Edwards, Sammy Callahan match. I mean, that just seems to be the most likely scenario.
That
But
match.
I want to get on to this next match because this one, this was a real barn burner before it gets interrupted. Of course, it is Johnny Swinger versus Cody Deaner. This is a feud that they keep on trying to end, and it just doesn't ever end because it keeps getting interrupted. Because, of course, Johnny Swinger picked up the win with the loaded fanny pack over Cody Deaner a few weeks ago, and Cody Deaner's been trying to get him back ever since. That's a sentence I just said about professional wrestling. And every time they've tried to run it back, it's been now interrupted by Eric Young and Joe Doring, and they keep on cutting the same promo. So,
Same freaking
um,
promo.
as much as I liked the promo work that Eric Young was doing leading up to taking the championship, and then also the promo work he was doing while he held the championship, he feels like he's kind of just creatively stagnant right now. With as far as he just keeps on saying the world is ours, not yours. So I want to see where this is going. I'm going to give them as much time as they need to get there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see uh, Cody Deaner try and wrestle Eric Young. I don't think that's going to go very well. But any thoughts here, Sandy, on kind of what's brewing to be a Eric Young Cody Deaner feud with possibly something happening with Joe Doring later on?
You know what? So I was totally uninterested in this because of the same promo, the same thing happening week after week. It's like, okay, so if this is gonna happen, throw something new in there, right? And finally, we did get that afterwards when we see, the Deaners upset about the whole EY situation, especially like you mentioned, Cody saying that this is personal. Like he's saying how Eric Young and he were wrestling and training at the same time. They would ride together to shows. They would ride together to training. How they were friends, and then now it's like he doesn't even exist at all. He's just complete garbage in EY's eyes, and that to me brought that peak of interest that I was looking for in these attacks by Eric Young. I can see them. I actually could see them have a great little feud. I'm not sure what Joe Dory will have to do in all of this, but for Cody Deaner, I think it would be fantastic to get outside of that whole Wrestle House goofy thing and have a legitimate feud with someone like Eric Young, who was a previous world champion. And I think that's a great opportunity for him. And then maybe they can start doing the whole tag thing of Joe Dory and EY tag. Then you can put both of the Deaners together and kind of get them that time as a tag team and that expose with a big serious feud outside of Wrestle House to really show what they can do. And I feel like this is a great opportunity for them. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad they brought the whole Deaner thing in here. And it makes sense. And you know what? His promo backstage was so passionate. There was so much emotion behind it. I don't know if true or completely made up, but it doesn't matter because he nailed that delivery of that promo to try to make us show that this is serious. He cares about it, and he's trying to make sure that we care about it too, and that we're interested in it too. And I am now 100% on board if this is the direction they go.
Yeah, Logan, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I thought it was really, really. I mean, honestly, 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Johnny Swinger, man, he's going down in history as one of the no. Eric Young is an interesting character. He kind of reminds me of like someone from Pasco County when you refuse to give them change outside of a 7-Eleven when he comes out and starts screaming. But it's captivating, and I really
Sure.
like. Yeah, he. It kind of caught me off guard with him just screaming over and over again, "This isn't your world, this is our world," or what was it that he was saying?
So I actually wrote this down. He was like, he will continue to do this until we open our eyes. They're the cure. Sickness is everywhere. The disease has taken over, but they will prevail. And then I just wrote down whatever that all means. So this is when I was sort of like, what the hell does he keep saying?
But it was definitely thought provoking. And then, like Sandy said, with the backstage, the
Cody Deaner.
Cody Deaner, yeah, his promo was really, really good. What's his tag team partner's name?
The Deaners.
Just the Deaners.
Well, it's Cousin Jake.
Cousin Jake. Okay, yeah.
Wait.
The only thing though is I do like programs where they have sort of one member of a tag team feuding in a singles feud, but I just feel like it's kind of gonna throw Cousin Jake off to the side a little bit, especially since they haven't really established them too much. Like, I haven't seen them work as a tag team too often. So, I mean, if they're trying to establish them as a tag team or to make this feel more personal as, you know, I don't want to do this as a team, I want to do this by myself, I feel like there should be more of that feeling of these guys are inseparable. This must be a really big deal if he's going to go at this alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. With Josh, them as a tag team, before we started watching, what do we know about them as a tag team?
Yeah, that's a great question. They've been on Impact for a while. Let me pull up, if I can, how long.
That's an interesting take. And if they are like an established tag team, and now you're saying you're not a fan of, you know, one of them having a feud outside of that tag team.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to do a singles feud from a guy in a tag team, if you want to make it feel really personal, you're better off doing that. Like if the Usos, for example,
involving the second person.
Yeah. But if one of them says, "Hey, no, I need to do this alone," that you're like, "Oh shit! Like these two are nothing but a tag team. Like we only see work as a tag team. This must be a big deal." Gotcha. I don't know too much of their work, so it feels more like two singles guys right now. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really. When he said, "No, I want to do this alone. This is personal," the gravity of that wasn't really too well portrayed to me.
Yeah, so the Deaners, they debuted April 13th, 2019 on Impact. So they've not been there that long. So
they debuted as a tag team, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just me not seeing enough of their stuff.
No, but
I feel like they're definitely a lower card tag team, especially in a world where we're just now in the spot. But before this, you know, we had the Rascals, we had Motor City Machine Guns, the North, the Good Brothers, Triple XL. You have, you even have Reno Scum hanging around. You have, you know, before Heath got injured, you have Heath and Rhino there as a tag team. So, you know, the Does He Hit Squad previously. So there's plenty of tag team options. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But it is Cody Deaner's best work as far as what we've been watching. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if he gets buried from this angle, or if they give him kind of more of a 50-50 kind of look with Eric Young. But we'll see what happens.
Well, I feel like if you're going to build Eric Young back up, you got to kind of give him a big win, but you don't want to feed one of your established stars. So maybe what they're trying to do is make Deaner feel like a big star to then bury him to make it feel like Eric Young beat a big name. You know,
they definitely are propping him up. They are propping him up for sure.
But they have no real intention of using him past this.
Oh, I think it's a little early to say that much.
Well, I'm saying it's a possibility.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah.
I hope not.
That's way down the line. Yeah.
Well, you know, I will say this is that Sandy and I have learned even before this week that you always trust what Scott D'Amore and Don Callis are doing. So they've really built a good product here at Impact Wrestling, and beyond, as we'll get into later. Now, this is the part of the show where it really takes a really weird turn. We get, of course, Deonna Purrazzo and Kimberly backstage with Father John Mitchell. Of course, we saw last week they tried to make a deal with him to turn Su Yung into Susie because they feel like they could handle a Susie problem, but not a Su Yung problem. Something that I probably would agree with. But then we have, Deonna comes out to the ring. She tells Kimberly, "Hey, listen, Kim and I," and she calls her Kim. I don't know that anyone's ever called her that. But she says, Kim and I will go to the ring and draw her out. You just do the rest. So she goes, challenges her to a rematch, says, you got to get out of here right now or else you're not getting your rematch. And then this is where, quite literally, all hell breaks loose.
So, like, for us, I feel it's very, I'm only a little bit familiar with the whole undead bridesmaid situation with Su Yung, like when she first started doing. I don't recall the whole Father Mitchell thing back then when all this kind of went down. So the whole backstage story of it, I'm not too familiar with. I do recall the time that it happened, but I was like, what the hell is going on over on Impact? And I just didn't watch it when it was happening. But I kind of knew, like, okay, he has something to do with why Su Yung is this way. And, of course, what we see from this is that Deonna and Kimber come out to the ring. They call out Su Yung, or Deonna calls out Su Yung for her rematch clause, but Father Mitchell then comes out and brings the whole squad of undead bridesmaids with him. So I was like, oh shit, what is happening? Deonna takes advantage of the fact that the bridesmaids were surrounding Su Yung and she was distracted, takes her out with the Cosa Nostra, which is the Gotch-style pile driver that she does, and that was it. And then the main part here wasn't just that beat down, that simple squash almost. It's that the brides take Su Yung with them out of the ring. They just got all kind of carry her limp body. And I guess we'll see what happens next week. But the visuals themselves looked really freaking cool. You know, the background, all the red, and it literally looks like they're in freaking hell. And, you know, Father Mitchell looks crazy with his eyebrows, and he has great delivery in whatever he's talking about. So it was out there. It was weird. If you're not into this type of stuff in wrestling, then you're going to hate it. But I thought, you know, it's that wrestling doesn't have to be super serious. It can just be silly sometimes. And we had The Undertaker for God knows how, well, we do know how many years, however many years. And, you know, he was a dead man, you know, he did all the creepy shit and then we all loved it. And, you know, why can't Impact do this now? You know, I feel like just some people are just so easy to be like, oh, that's goofy shit. What is happening over there? And it's like, there's been goofy shit in wrestling forever. The 80s, all the characters back then, complete fucking just gimmicks and not even good wrestlers.
Right, yeah,
you know?
name a job and that's your name. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't even, I don't know, I'm getting on a rant here, but it looked cool. Can't wait to see what happens to Su Yung. I don't know if she went back to hell and then we'll get Susie. I don't know, but I feel like the Su Yung dead bride character is a lot more over than the Susie doll character.
I feel like Susie worked better with when Kylie Ray was around. I feel like
Without that's kind of lost. But who knows? We'll see what happens. What did you think?
No, I thought it was a pretty cool visual, and I'm trying to kind of, you know, catch up still on what Father James Mitchell, what his kind of whole background is, and you know, it's kind of like he's kind of all over the place, right? So he's one of those old school wrestling guys that's bounced around forever. You know, he held an alliance with Abyss and all kinds of stuff. So he's been around TNA for a while, and he made 2 brief appearances at WWE. And I found this fun fact: he actually appears on a Insane Clown Posse track, which is he performs a Carnival Barker style introduction to the song "Ride the Tempest" from the Insane Clown Posse album "The Tempest," featuring the signature laughter of his Sinister Minister gimmick.
Yo.
So I think that tells me everything I need to know about Father James Mitchell. But no, I think, you know, he's definitely he's a charismatic character. There's a reason why they keep on bringing him back into stuff, because they trust him on the microphone. Certainly, I don't think we're going to see him really getting physical or taking any more matches. But no, I thought it definitely served the purpose of whatever they're trying to accomplish with him now being back and resurrected. Um,
Hmm.
so we'll see where it goes from there. It's kind of my whole take on it. I'm curious if you guys recognized any of the bridesmaids because I did not.
I did not either.
I don't think they really showed their faces too much, did they?
I tried. I was trying to keep an eye out, but I did not recognize anyone.
Yeah,
No.
they gave a little bit of a look, but not anything obvious.
Yeah.
Goldberg.
No, shut up.
Like, I'm picturing Goldberg as a undead bridesmaid, and that's quite the picture.
Get that on a shirt,
Terrifying.
brother.
No.
So after this, we get a quick backstage promo with Chris Bay talking to our friend Moose.
Moose.
Basically, Moose, Moose is he's turned into quite the interesting character, and it's an interesting trade of events. Basically, threatening Chris Bay that if he does beat Rich Swann, that he's going to catch the next beating. Um, or when he does, well, he has to beat Willie Mack, I guess, to get the title shot. But then he doesn't. And he's still got the title shot. But we'll get into that. Um, and then we see the next edition of the Defeat Rohit Challenge,
My
which,
man.
of course, is Sandy's, one of Sandy's favorites. Rohit Raju defending against Crazy Steve after Crazy Steve in the Suicide Mask gets the roll-up win last week in the non-title match. This actually I thought was a pretty decent match. When Crazy Steve is actually wrestling and not doing his gimmick, he is a pretty good worker.
He's
Um,
really good.
I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Logan, we'll kick off with your thoughts here. What's your notes and take here for the X Division Championship match between Rohit Raju and Crazy Steve?
Well, Rohit has slowly become one of my favorite wrestlers just because watching him, just all around, I feel like he's an incredibly well-rounded wrestler. He's great on the mic. He is an excellent worker. He uses ring psychology, but he can also do the spots. But then just watching him, he's so fluent, and his ring awareness and positioning, you can see where he can he can fill in for whatever his opponent's gap in knowledge may be. So Crazy Steve in that match, I saw a couple instances where he wasn't quite in the right position, but Rohit had this really cool way about him where he would recover in such a way that didn't look like he was trying to recover from a botch or maybe trying to position themselves, but then
Mhm.
also pull off whatever it is that they were trying to do just so incredibly smoothly. I've never really been a big fan of Crazy Steve, but I thought the match was really solid. But yeah, Rohit is just, man, he's another one that I get the notepad out every time he's out, and just his character work. And it's one thing for people to be, really awesome characters on the mic, but then as soon as the bell rings, sometimes that switch kind of flips, and they can't really be a good worker and show that character work as well. But he does a really good balance of both. He maintains that really captivating character work while being a consistently great worker, and I think that's something that I think.
You literally stole all my notes.
Oh, did I?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you know that thing on the screen that she's got that says like wrestling notes.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you were reading. No, I'm kidding.
Right up here, baby. Don't need no notes.
Again, this is an audio presentation, not a visual platform. So people can't see you looking at Sandy's notes or not looking at Sandy's notes. All they know is what we're telling them. But yeah, Sandy, since Logan took most of your notes here, you got anything else to add?
Freaking literally.
I said, yeah, go ahead. Unoriginal.
Get out of here. So this match, I love all of Rohit's matches, but this one, I honestly felt like he turned it up to like 150%. The intensity from the start was, man, it was up there. He was just, when he was hitting the ropes with such intention, like shit, like I need to get rid of this man and hold on to my title. Like he cares so much about that thing. And with every kick in the corner, he was just, oh my God, there was a time that he did a giant just running kick to the face of Crazy Steve and just looked brutal. Everything that he was doing that night against Crazy Steve was with intention, with passion, and he wanted to get that win. And I was like, holy shit. One of the little details here is that at the end, Rohit Raju wins, but he does, what was it? It was not a roll up. They were going back and they were trading pins, and he finally kind of gets him. It was the crucifix.
No, it was an Okana.
But no, remember Steve was going for the crucifix, but he stopped it, and it was the Okana.
For the pin or for the submission that he did?
For the pin, at the end.
I think it was an Okana roll.
I think that's right.
Yeah, but it was, when did the crucifix thing happen earlier?
Yeah.
But anyways, he didn't even have to he held the ropes to secure the pin, but he didn't have to, he wasn't, I don't think Crazy Steve was getting anywhere out of that pin.
No.
But because of his character, he immediately just saw the rope and immediately just grabbed it, even if it was for like less than half a second of the third count. Because he's a freaking genius. That's his character. And
just to make that little bit more to put it over the edge.
Exactly. And honestly, one of my biggest takeaways from watching Impact, from starting this podcast, is that I'm just so thankful that I started doing this, and thankful for watching Impact, because otherwise I would have never found out about Rohit Raju, and he's become one of my favorites. I'm not even joking about that. He's become my favorite.
She has a little shrine in the bedroom. She gives a little kiss every night before she goes to bed. Good night, Rohit.
I'm just very thankful. I would have, honestly, sometimes you when you discover like a wrestler in the indies, you feel so accomplished because it's like, oh man, it's this person that hasn't made it yet, That's how I feel about Rohit Raju. Yeah, he's a contract. He has a contract. He's a champion. He's an Impact. But like, think of how many people are not watching Impact because of other promotions available. And of course, Impact has been the running joke in wrestling for many years, and it's not even their fault anymore. And I'm just thankful because honestly, he's up there, man. I love him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna skip. There's two backstage segments, but I didn't want to, just in the interest of time, because we got a lot more to get to. We're gonna skip past Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz. They're still hiding the money from Fallah Bahh, who
Didn't
continues.
he have an accident 2 weeks ago?
He still kind of does.
Yeah.
But he keeps on using the word Gucci because they used it to say all Gucci. And then there was a backstage, Brian Myers, TJP, Crazy Steve, and I don't know if Swagger was backstage for this one. But they're just kind of leading to what Brian Myers is going to do next, which is probably going to wind up being TJP. But I do want to spend as much time as we need to on this one. It is the main event. We've seen this match before, but it's always a good match and never a bad time when Willie Mack and Chris Bay are in the ring. I thought this one was pretty damn good. Of course, Willie Mack is a huge favorite of this podcast, and so is Chris Bay. And of course, they're making sure to point out that Chris Bay, of course, is going to be competing in the Super J Cup USA with New Japan Pro Wrestling, as well as TJP. So that is super cool. But this is a pretty great match. It goes 9.5 minutes. It seemed like there were stakes going into it, but coming out of it, Chris Bay still has a title shot at Final Resolution. So I'm not really sure if there was actual stakes in it, or if they just dropped them. But pretty good match here that gives Willie Mack the win.
It was so much fun. We love Willie Mack. I think we can both say that we absolutely love him. It was a hot start from the beginning by Willie, as he just demolishes Chris Bay for a little while with some brutal chops. And oh my God, he did a spot where he damn near rips Chris Bay's nipples off, which was hilarious. I absolutely loved it. We do see the story of the match being that Chris Bay cuts off Willie Mack by targeting and damaging his knee. It was, oh my gosh, it's crazy to me. So Impact, I think, has the best big men that can work, because I'm not a big fan of someone like Braun Strowman. I don't feel like he can really
Ronnie Bass Jr.
Get out of here.
We are definitely not going to talk down about, of course, our friend and local wrestler Ron Bass Jr. on this podcast. Thank you very much.
Big old Ronnie Bass Jr.
They're feuding for life.
Listen, shout outs to Ron Bass Jr. He's got a great T-shirt. I'm sorry, I got to give it to him.
That one fully gimmicked?
Yes.
It's so cute. I love it. I want
Great
one.
shirt.
I'll kill us all right now.
Logan
Anyways,
salty.
back to talking about big men slapping meat or whatever it is that Big E says. Isn't that what he says? Big men smacking meat or something like that.
Yeah. Slap thanks. Oh yeah, they can't see it. Yeah. I assure
Yeah,
you, what I did is funny. Yeah.
Well, lucky for us, I do actually record the video for this too, so this might go on the official 8-Bit Suplex TikTok channel.
Don't you dare! We have one of those.
There's a TikTok.
No, we don't, but we might. we might have to.
Please let me know ahead of time. My hair is all a mess.
Oh, don't worry about it. Your hair looks great. So does mine, but that's because I'm wearing a hat. But anyways, getting back to Willie Mack here.
It was freaking awesome. So good. The best big men. Like, outside of Keith Lee that WWE now has, because, of course, when he and Willie Mack went at it in the Indies, I freaking loved it. So now we have Willie Mack. He's so great. This was a fantastic match. And the finish, man, of course, we do see at the end of the match that Willie Mack goes over on Chris Bay, but then Moose comes out with his spear onto Willie Mack, which that spear to me, what do you think of that spear? You know, the whole rolling forward. Do you like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. I do.
I think he calls it the lights out. Is I think what he calls it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I really liked Willie Mack when he got slapped and he was just like, "You got me fucked up," and then the pop up forearm was
oh my god!
Oh, that popped me. Yeah,
it was
that
right after that. Yeah, he picks up Chris Bay. Chris Bay's in the air and he literally throws this freaking forearm. Mm-hmm. Oh my god!
Beautiful forearm. Yeah.
That sound. I was like, holy shit.
He's got a lot of meat to slap. So.
Yes, he does, and he moves it well. Yeah, no, I mean, this is when you put out a TV main event. This is everything that you want and more. I think so. Definitely a great match. Pretty good episode of Impact. It turns out to be, I guess you could call it almost a go-home show for next week's Impact, which we'll get into. This is normally the part of the show where we would transition into a video game topic, but we're actually not going to do that this week or next week, just because the wrestling world, so to speak, got somewhat flipped on its head Wednesday night on TNT. And I'm not just talking about Sting reappearing on All Elite Wrestling, but also what happens in the main event of that show. We were going to talk a little bit up here about Dynamite, and just to kind of set the stage, since this is we haven't talked about AEW much on this show, even though our first episode of this podcast, which we'll remember was almost 4 months ago at this point, hard to believe, we talked about the AEW Women's Tag Team Tournament.
That's right.
But since then, we just decided that we were going to talk strictly Impact. And, you might be saying, yeah, but this is the Impact podcast still. Why are you guys talking about Dynamite? And we'll get into that later, of course. But Sandy and Logan, I'll go to both of you. What is kind of your thoughts, your experience thus far in the short-lived, thus far All Elite Wrestling?
You go first.
I'm an NXT guy.
Did you see that? Did you catch that? I'm an NXT guy.
I did.
No, I enjoy it. I really like
I make him watch it. Like, if we're both home Wednesday night, like, we're watching AEW. I've been there with them from the start, and that's how it's going moving forward.
And here's the thing: it's not that I don't like Impact. It's just Impact. It's not that I don't like Dynamite. It's just that I am very rarely home at a time where I can watch Dynamite, and we don't have the DVR anymore. But I can watch NXT when it comes out on the network. So it's just that I follow it more because it's more accessible. But I love the product that they put out, and I love it as an alternative, and I love it as, the edgier product, but they still maintain, they give you that little bit of, ooh, we say shit and there's blood sometimes, but also you're going to see really good wrestling,
Sure.
Yeah. wasn't too up to date on any of the storylines going in. Apart from, I think I stopped watching right around when Orange Cassidy and Pac were feuding, and then kind of came back in when FTR came back into the fold. So I had a little bit of a gap there, but
That's a pretty big gap.
yeah. Yeah, I started working Wednesday nights, so
That's right.
yeah.
Man.
Sure. Listen, I totally get it. I played Wednesday night hockey for a very long time, and I stopped playing Wednesday night hockey because, of course, 2 nights of wrestling, two big wrestling programs on Wednesdays, and then of course on this week of all weeks, I decided to fill in for a friend's team on a Wednesday night, and not be able to watch this action live.
No.
But yeah, and I actually found out about what happened from Sandy texting me while I was in the parking lot of the hockey rink, because I set all my group chats to mute until I watch, and then I wasn't planning on the Sandy text message, but that's okay. It didn't really spoil anything. It kind of, I kind of knew who was going to win that match. But Sandy,
Very nice.
before we get into that, Sandy, what are your thoughts on AEW thus far?
So I have my criticisms, but overall I've really, really enjoyed it. I being familiar with these guys, watching PWG and checking them out in the indies wherever I could. I was there for also New Japan's first show in Long Beach, California. I made the trek all the way to the other coast of the country, following New Japan for a long time, seeing these guys in the indies. They were my favorites, outside of WWE. I think even at this time I was like so uninterested in WWE for such a long time that I did the big shows, but when it came to my favorites, it was Adam Cole when he was still in there, and before he got murdered. He got murdered, okay?
Yeah, I know.
And when the Being the Elite show came out on YouTube, I was watching that every single week or whenever they came out, and so I had huge on following them. Kenny Omega, of course, everyone's favorite for those amazing matches that he put out a few years ago with Okada.
He's no Jinder Mahal, but
get out of here. He's no Ricky Rogers. But
they are both Canadian, though.
Yeah. To me, it was all about supporting them, being the new guys, being the little guys. And I know from the start they said, they're not competing against the E, and that's fine. But, they're so now competing with NXT. So I wanted to, in my sense, I'm like, I'm going to support the little guys that need to get those ratings, that need to succeed, to be that alternate product, not only for the fans, but for workers alike. Hey, like we've seen people from our school. Lindsay Snow, she's had a couple of matches on AEW Dark. Catalina Perez, we've seen people that we train with that are getting the opportunities there. So, of course, we want that company to succeed. And that's how I see it in my eyes. I feel like they really are an indie-friendly company, allowing this talent to get that exposure that they would have never had otherwise, Yeah. Especially during this pandemic situation, having them have that opportunity to be on the big stage like that, it has been fantastic. It has been something that has helped the entire independent wrestling community. My criticisms, though, is that in the beginning, how they were trying to market it as like kind of like a New Japan American alternative in a way, that it was going to be more sports centric rather than entertainment centric. Mm-hmm. As we've seen with the changes with what was the one faction that Brandy Rhodes was going to do, and
that would be the Nightmare Collective, yeah.
Nightmare Collective, how much criticism that had, and that got completely scrapped. We've seen these goofy storylines here and there. It hasn't been 100% sports centric like they kind of more pushed it towards, and it's kind of been more on the entertainment side while still getting great matches. But I feel like they oversold it as that sports centric by saying, hey, we're gonna have match ratings, and then based on the ratings of the wrestler, then that's how you get your opportunities. But we see that kind of to me, it's kind of like an afterthought, that they kind of just put the ratings out there for shits and giggles almost.
You're talking about the records, the win-loss records, and I'll agree with you on that, certainly. The win-loss records they matter when they do, and then they don't when they don't, right?
Exactly. It's just kind of there. So I've had my criticisms, but overall I've really enjoyed the product. It's great to see these alternative matches that we wouldn't be able to see elsewhere. And it's entertaining. It's fun as hell.
Okay. Well, the thing about that is with the sports centric, that's how you get over with the loyal crowd, the wrestling crowd. But when you start wanting to appeal to a national television and appeasing, stockholders and drawing in that more casual audience, that's what WWE has done so well for so long, which is, they get so much criticism, but yet here they are. It's because they know how to play the entertainment game and pull in that casual audience.
For the most
and they
part.
kind of realized, hey, that's kind of what we're going to have to do here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's interesting to see, and I've been to, trying to think, I've been to Daly's Place for shows. I want to say 4 times now. I went to the first Fight for the Fallen.
Mm.
I went to a New Year's Day Dynamite, and then I went to All Out, maybe, which was the one that Matt Hardy almost died at. Was that All Out or was that Full Gear?
I don't remember which one that was. That's not too long ago, so maybe Full Gear?
Yeah, I think that was Full Gear.
It wasn't the last one. Whichever the last one was, it was the one before that. But regardless, yeah, I mean it's a absolutely incredible live show. It's a really fun TV show to watch. And I think you're right when you're talking about that entertainment aspect. I mean, there's only one show that did a mimosa match.
Yeah.
So in which I saw in person, that was the same show, which one that was. That was fun to watch, but of course, it took a long time to clean up and make everything safe again. So, there's certainly some interesting things going on with All Elite Wrestling. There is more guys that are that high work rate style. Get in as many moves as you can. They get criticized a lot because some of their guys don't really sell too heavy. And I think that's something that New Japan takes some criticism from your old school WWE guys, your guys that grew up watching territorial wrestling, like Mid-South and different things like that, right? So there's definitely criticisms there. I really enjoy the product. It's the only weekly show besides Impact that I try to make sure that I don't miss. And that's just because I like a lot of the wrestlers that are on there. I'm at a point right now where, like, if you had to tell me, like, you would literally have to tell me who the NXT champion is right now. And that's not, I could tell you who the tag team champions are. I could tell you who the women's champion is, but I couldn't tell you who the regular. I know who the North American champion is because we've seen Leon Ruff locally a whole bunch, and it couldn't happen to a better guy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I mean AEW, really awesome so far. I hope they continue to build off of the momentum they got. They do set up this. I guess they're going to do this yearly now for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And this is the first match that we get here on the card is the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royale, where the final 2 qualify for the match for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Of course, won by MJF last year. Competing in this, we had, I'm looking at the list here, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, Serpentico, Scorpio Sky, Sammy Guevara, Miro, Matt Sydal, Matt Hardy, Mark Quinn, Luther, Lee Johnson, Kip Sabian, Jungle Boy, John Silver, Joey Janela, Isaiah Cassidy, Alex Reynolds, Adam Page, and of course the 2 winners of the match, MJF and Orange Cassidy. Now, Orange Cassidy did get to sit most of the match out because he was pulled out under the ropes and then slammed into a corner pole. And MJF kind of sat most of it out because he and Wardlow just kind of hid in a corner. I love, and maybe too much, I love Battle Royals. I love the Royal Rumble is still my favorite match, and it doesn't matter if it's a quote unquote bad one. I still get hyped for I just want to see who comes in when, and who's a surprise, and who's this. And so, and there, I don't think there's any surprises definitely in this Battle Royal about who was in it. But I love a good over the top rope Battle Royal. And I thought this was a pretty good one.
That's awesome. So I actually missed like the first 30, 40 minutes of Dynamite. So I do want to go back and see that. Did they do all the entrances? Like did they do the separate entrances or probably just had everyone in the ring, right?
They actually had everyone ringside, and then when they rang the bell, everyone went into the ring. Except for, yeah. So except a couple people kind of waited and didn't get in right away. Shawn Spears and Scorpio Sky had a stare down, and a couple others. But yeah, it's definitely a different style of way to do it for sure.
That is interesting.
And that's cool. See, that's what I like. I like someone being innovative and trying different things. And even if it doesn't work, hey, what the
least
hell?
it's
Just give it a
different, yeah.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then moving right along, so we'll get MJF and Orange Cassidy next week for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. This may be an opportunity to continue that push that Orange Cassidy got earlier in the year by beating Jericho in their feud.
Hell
We'll
yeah.
see how
Has
we'll
to.
see how it goes. I'm a big Orange Cassidy fan.
Yeah.
I have an Orange Cassidy T-shirt that I wear pretty often, and just subconsciously my thumbs ups are no longer this; they're just this. So, which
So
you know,
lazy.
yeah, the lazy thumb, which of course works great on an audio medium.
Get that TikTok going.
The next match on the card was Chris Jericho and Frankie Kazarian. I thought it was okay. I don't know. Did you guys catch this one?
I did not. We did not.
No.
No,
Okay.
Oh,
So listen, it's okay. You didn't really miss anything too much. The cage match has it about a 5 out of 10. So you're talking like a 2.5 or so if you're looking at star ratings. So I
this
think
one up for a while.
I think it's time to start kind of having that conversation about Jericho, that his in-ring work is starting to go down. He's still a great promo. He still has some pretty good spots here and there. But I don't think I think he's someone that you have to start carrying. And unfortunately, he's a guy that calls everything in the ring as it goes. Um, he doesn't plan anything out, so you can't really, you're kind of moving based off of what he's saying. And I think that's going to start to, as he continues to get older, in his 50s now, I think he is. Um,
Hmm.
that's going to start to dip faster and faster, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever, guys. He still got it. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, he does for now. I'll say that. I'll give him that. But I will say this is that Frankie Kazarian is kind of looking like Target brand Randy Orton out there. He's got a good he's got a good tan going. He's got the muscle definition. He's got a bit more hair than Randy does, but that's because Frankie Kazarian definitely, he got whatever the hair treatment LeBron James does. That's what Frankie Kazarian's on, because he's got a full head of hair now, compared to last year. And yeah,
Weird.
so
I gotta see
it was,
this.
yeah, pull up a picture of Frankie Kazarian, and if you're listening at home, do the same. And then pull up a picture of Randy Orton, and you'll just think that you just gave Frankie Kazarian a buzz cut. Um, they're looking that similar. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Next match on the card was, of course, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, accompanied by Rebel or Reba, depending on who you believe, taking on Layla Hirsch. And Layla Hirsch is someone that's gotten some buzz because she did work Stardom. I don't know, are either of you familiar with Layla Hirsch?
I have seen some of her matches from Stardom and some of her other work, and she can go for someone her size. It is.
She a big one.
She was the one I showed you that she's really really short.
Oh, right,
She's
right.
really
Yeah,
short.
yeah.
And Britt Baker, I'm not sure how tall she is, but she was towering over Layla,
I
which
don't
looked a
think
little
Britt,
funny.
yeah, I don't think Britt tops 5'6". So, which is why I think like Layla looks, probably from a height perspective, looks like she fits in a little bit better in Stardom, where most of the wrestlers are pretty short. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, Britt and Layla have a pretty good match here. Um, Cage match is about the same rating on that one as what Jericho and Kazarian got, which is, I think, a pretty good sign for the women's division here in AEW, to start getting more positive reactions and ratings. Because that's been a topic that's been a criticism of AEW over its existence, is that they don't give the women enough time and they don't give the women enough matches on Dynamite. But we do see a lot of women's matches on Dark. We did see the women's tag team tournament on YouTube, which got a ton of views. So we'll see how they go here. Um, there's a tag team match between Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin taking on Team Taz, which of course is Powerhouse Will Hobbs and Ricky Starks. Will Hobbs is a guy I'm very big on. I don't know about you guys, But Will Hobbs to me is he's a little bit like he's less athletic than the Keith Lees and Willie Max of the world as far as like he's not doing flips and stuff. Um, but I love the way he works.
Oh yeah.
He was throwing some crazy freaking forms in there. Remember, like he flipped Darby completely inside out, outside of the ring at one spot.
Oh,
And I
with
was
the
like,
lariat, yeah.
yeah, that lariat was brutal. And we're like, oh shit, he has a great look, and I love that intensity that he brings about him.
Lariat.
Yeah, I mean, really good. Ricky Starks, of course, Dynamite
I
worker.
love him.
Great promo work out of him lately. Kind of being the one guy that's the mouthpiece there, because I don't know if you guys have seen any old Brian Cage promos. They are not great. So adding Ricky Starks there as kind of the stick man slash cruiserweight of Team Taz, alongside, of course, Taz is still one of the greatest promos of all time. So really good work there. Of course, they actually wind up losing to Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin. Darby Allin hits the coffin drop on Ricky Starks to get the pin. Afterwards, of course, there's some beat down going on. Brian Cage comes out from the back. Dustin Rhodes comes out from the back. The Nightmare Family, so to speak, and Darby Allin get the piss kicked out of them. And then the lights cut out. And, there's, of course, the long-going joke about AEW and their lights turning off. But when the lights come back on, it's a video, and I don't know about you guys, like none of this video doesn't say to me that this person is coming out at all. But of course, the soundbite, and I might just put the soundbite in right here. So future Josh, when you're listening to this later, put the soundbite in here. But the chills of Tony Schiavone saying it's Sting, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I popped. Oh my god, I freaked out. But Logan actually guessed that he was watching the video. What did you say first? You said a name first.
I made a joke about it being the Mortician, like the Undertaker was showing up, and I was like, no, it's gonna be Sting, yeah.
But then he's like, oh, no, it's Sting. And I was like, what? No way. And it's like, and it was him. And I was like, oh. And the effects with the snow coming from the video.
Was so cool, yeah.
He looked, I mean, people are saying that he looked like crap. His hair, he looked a mess. But I thought he looked
like Sting. Yeah,
he looked fantastic. He looked like an older freaking Sting. What
I
else
wish
could
they would have done like instead of the white and black, if he would have done like a white and blue for like what was it, the Night King from
Oh, like from
sure. Yeah, because it was Winter is Coming. Yeah, what's the name of the episode? Yeah, I mean,
stupid.
But yeah, no, I mean, just to obviously you could tell Schiavone really enjoyed making that call, and it was a great surprise. And of course, I thought Sting looked pretty good for a man of his age. I mean, how long I mean, Sting's been wrestling since before we were born, Sandy. So, I mean, the guy can only look so good. You got to start, judging this on the curve. But I think he looks pretty good for his age.
I thought so too. I went online. People were like, "Oh my god, he looks like crap." It's like, okay, first of all, relax, because you're probably gonna look like crap too when you're old. This man has taken all the bumps, and he got hurt last time he was wrestling a few years ago against Seth Rollins, and now we see him back, and I'm just thankful. And of course, I don't think anyone really expects this man to go in there and have matches, because that is what we fear, right? We've seen these Hall of Famers and these older guys come back, and it's been a disaster. And of course, I'm talking about those Saudi Arabia shows with WWE where they go in there and those matches are just awful, and that's not how we want to see those childhood heroes look. But I don't think anyone really is expecting him to go in there and have matches again. What we did see in the ring is that he went and sized everyone up and down. He made hard eye contact. He never broke that glare that he has from his lips, from his eyes. And then the final person he went up to was Darby Allin. And he looked at him in the eyes for much longer than he did everyone else. And it was a beautiful scene that the camera caught of the intensity of them just looking at each other. And to me, if this is the direction that they're going, where it's bringing Sting back to be some sort of mentor for Darby Allin and some sort of passing the torch from Sting being that character with the face paint and that creepy darkness, giving it to Darby Allin, an up-and-coming star for, Dynamite on TNT, that is the way to do it. I am actually one of those people that are, the whole Undertaker retiring. To me, Undertaker retired at WrestleMania in Orlando against Roman Reigns. All these comebacks he's done afterwards, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I just hate the fact that he never got to pass that torch
Mhm.
to someone like Bray Wyatt, which I feel like would have been a more than deserving character to have that passing of the torch and be the new creepy character that's untouchable. We never got to see that. Instead, Undertaker took it with him, and I feel like it was a waste. So if this is the direction they're going, I am just 100,000% here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one comment I'll make about the Undertaker is that, and I said this on One Nation Radio a couple weeks ago. I don't believe that the Undertaker's retired until Mark Calloway himself is dead. It just won't happen. I just don't see it. There's always going to be some payday, some
Yeah.
big show that they're going to come back, and he's gonna Mark Calloway can't stay away. He doesn't know how to. But when you're talking about Sting is 61 years old. So yeah, we're definitely not going to see him take Kenny Omega to the limits in a 35-minute match. But if he has some enhancement matches, some tag team matches, clearly there was a good stare down between him and Arn Anderson. So we'll see kind of where this goes. And of course, there's history there between Sting and the Rhodes family from the WCW era. So we'll see kind of where that goes.
Do you see matches though, or do you think he's coming back in an Arn Anderson capacity where it's, maybe he does a stinger splash and a, here and there, but never really has a bell-to-bell match?
I think he'll do some of the shorter ones. Like I think there's a spot for him. He's too big of a name to have a squash match on Dark probably, but that would be a really good use of him. I think to just give some of these. Can you imagine being a young indie worker that's coming into work Dark and you get to pull Sting for AEW Dark? To me, that would be incredible.
I feel like he's got to have his retirement match, and if it's going to happen, it's got to be on TNT. It's got to be on the spiritual predecessor, like his official retirement.
Right. Because he had I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had the last match that was televised on TNT of WCW against Ric Flair. So for him to now be back on TNT to kind of give his blessing, so to speak, of what the product is now on TNT. To me, that's pretty awesome. But yeah, it kind of takes away from that tag match too, though. If you ask me, that Sting was the best part of it, and he wasn't even in the match. So,
it
was a good match, but overshadowed by what happened next. And I think this next match kind of suffers from that too, which is the main event with Kenny Omega challenging Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. This was a very good match. It's Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. How could it not be? It goes 28 minutes and 28 seconds. So we almost get a full half hour here. The problem that I have with having World Championship matches on television is that there's commercials. And that I feel like every time that you started to get really heated and hooked into this match, it went to commercial. And obviously, so Floyd, who was on, of course, All Things Elite here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network, he was telling us, oh yeah, dude, in person, everyone was red hot the whole time. Everyone was he did half the crowd was standing the whole match. It was the whole thing. But when you watch that on TV, it's tough because, I wish they would have done, because they normally do the first match commercial free. I feel like they should have flipped that. But I understand it's a business. That is the main event. More people are going to tune in for the main event. More ad revenue comes in. So I totally understand that aspect of it. But I think it hit all the spots that it needed to. It hit all the moments it needed to. And you know what? I really enjoyed it.
I did too. It was, it's been a while, I feel like, since we've seen this Kenny Omega. He's had great matches when he was with Adam Page and doing the whole tag team thing. But this is the story that was being told this entire time. Everyone that was a fan of Being the Elite, and who was a fan starting from the get-go of All Elite Wrestling and Dynamite, wanted to see that Kenny Omega that we all came to love in New Japan, which was the cleaner, and that character of, that high intensity, those 5-star matches, going at it, going tough, going long, you name it. We wanted to see that. And I feel like a lot of fans kind of felt let down because we didn't see the Young Bucks immediately as tag team champions, and we didn't really get to see what they could do in the beginning. But I understand they were giving other teams, a chance, and I understand that Kenny couldn't just be the champ right away. It makes sense, but a lot of people, I feel like myself included, felt a little disappointed. Like, man, I want to see that Kenny again. Maybe he doesn't have it anymore. Maybe that whole thing is behind him, and maybe we're not going to see that hard-going 5-star Kenny anymore. And that's exactly what he was saying in the promos. He was like, I need to come back. I'm fucking Kenny Omega. I had all these 5-star matches. I was the best wrestler in the world for multiple years. And so this was the story. It was clearly told by his promos, by Moxley's promos, and ultimately it delivered because they both went hard for this match to really prove that point. Kenny Omega gave it his all. Those knee strikes, as beautiful as we saw them against Okada, as beautiful as we saw it at Wrestle Kingdom, and oh man, it was hard hitting. It was absolutely beautiful. And like you said, it touched on every single point. And of course we get to the end of the match where it gets a little screw in. And before knowing where it was, the direction it was headed to, I was like, what are they doing? We do see a point where Kenny is down and he might be hurt. So the refs are checking on him. They call for Don Callis to come out and check on Kenny. Of course, we do get the story being told by commentary that Don Callis is related to Kenny Omega, that they've been, that they're family. And of course, this backstory we know from New Japan as well. Don Callis used to do commentary, English commentary in New Japan. Yep. When he would speak, he would say, hey, Kenny Omega's uncle was the Great Sheik, the Golden Sheik, something Sheik in Canada, which, and of course, Don Callis being in the business, also being related to Kenny. But commentary made sure to say, hey, that's the relation, in case anyone had missed it, so they did a good job there. So, of course, we get towards the end, and I'm like, oh, they're going to do some screwy fucking dumb finish, even though they said, if it goes past 10 p.m., they're going to keep it on the show. And we see Moxley grab Kenny Omega and said, fuck it, no, get the refs out of here. He brings him back in the ring.
Punches Don Callis.
Don Callis gets involved. We have the microphone. Who hits him with the microphone? Don Callis, right?
No, Don Callis drops the microphone into the ring as he's getting hit. And Kenny Omega picks it up and then gives him the old bop on the head with the mesh part.
The doop.
Doop. And of course, from there, Kenny picks him up and gives him some gnarly looking V triggers. Those V triggers were fucking beautiful.
Yeah, that man is made of muscle and kneecaps. Just...
So good.
Yes.
He literally popularized that one move. Like, I can't tell you how many people in the indies now are like, V trigger!
Dude, I think, I get... People call a V trigger fucking 8 times a match now. I'm like, oh my god, like, can your knee reach my head? Like,
do you have that mobility?
I'm not bending down. You got to do it.
But man, nobody does it like him.
No one. He's amazing.
Which is why that move everyone wants to do it now, because it looks so brutal. But it's like, all right, you're not Kenny. Relax.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Looking at you, Buddy Murphy.
Oh no, he's good. Stop. He's fantastic. No, but then of course Kenny goes in after those V triggers. It was one after the other. I think it was like 4 or 5. I can't even recall. But he goes for the one wing angel. No one kicks out of that. We have a new champ.
I really thought Moxley was going to kick out. I really for a second thought that he was going to kick.
Not after all those V triggers. I was like, it's over.
Yeah, I feel like if he was going to kick out of the one wing angel, it would be before taking 4 V triggers.
That's fair.
But also, yeah, I mean, if anybody was going to kick out of the one wing angel, it would be Jon Moxley. And just to say too about Jon Moxley, what a run as champion of AEW, carried the company through the pandemic. Really awesome job. And I think this year, I mean, obviously he was the PWI Male Wrestler of the Year, Jon Moxley, and with good reason. I think right now, I don't think there's a better promo in professional wrestling And I don't know that there's a better character in professional wrestling than Jon Moxley has been the past 12 months. But really excellent title run for him. And it comes to end on a screw finish. So, maybe we see them run it back in February on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I hope so.
I sure think so.
I
Especially, I think he'll have his time off, because he has a baby coming. He's gonna have
Mhm.
a baby with Renee, but he can come back and be like, "You son of a bitch," and then they can go at it again. It'll be great.
It'll be enough time for him to get things settled at home, but with enough time left for the baby to incubate, to cook a little longer. What is it called?
Ew.
To gestate?
What?
Yeah, gestation periods. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. You hug her and then you pee in her. How babies are made. Yeah.
Ew.
Welcome to 8-Bit Suplex, a anatomy and physiology podcast.
I hate
But
it here.
this is our special guest host, Logan, who does not have a medical degree, and I cannot emphasize that enough.
But I do have a piece of paper and some crayons, and I can make one. So.
Jesus.
Well, moving
We're
on.
banned from the 8-Bit Suplex podcast for life.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Logan. We'll see you never. No, I'm kidding. I kid. But yeah. So Don Callis gets involved, obviously, in the finish a little bit. I liked that they continued to work moves after the microphone spot to show, okay, it wasn't the microphone that took him out. It was the V triggers. It was the one wing angel. Had it been a microphone shot and then pin him 1, 2, 3, I would have felt like it would be, as we in the business would like to call, a fuck finish. But I liked that they continued to move. I liked that they continued to do actually put him away, right? And of course, Kenny gets up. Don Callis meets him in the ring, raises his hand with him, and then they run through the back. And this is what turns into one of the wackiest, surprising angles in modern wrestling history. Where Don Callis, and they've mentioned many times on air, Don Callis is there on special guest commentary, like Sandy's saying, because of his relationship with Kenny Omega. He is the co-vice president of Impact Wrestling. So they've been saying, they've name dropped Impact Wrestling the past couple weeks on AEW, but you just think nothing of it because we know that promotions don't work together. That's not a thing, right? So there's no reason to think that something may come of this. But so Kenny and Don run through the back. Of course, Tony Khan stands up at Gorilla like, what the hell? What are you doing? And they just run right past Tony Khan. They run right past everyone in the back. And for some reason, they stop to talk to Alex Marvez. Hey, kudos to Marvez for getting the scoop. And
chilling out
so
behind
funny.
the truck. I laughed so hard.
Yeah, he was just waiting. Yeah.
So funny.
So pop up Marvez. He says, "Hey, what's going on? What just happened? Why are you guys leaving?" And Don Callis says, "You'll find out on Tuesday night." And Marvez says, "But Dynamite's on Wednesdays." And as soon as he said that, I think the whole wrestling world went, "Whoa, shit." And then, of course, Don Callis confirms everyone's suspicions when he says, "Tune in to Impact Wrestling on Access TV Tuesday night, and you'll hear all about it." And he slams the door to the SUV, drives away, and everyone's left now. We're here recording on Saturday. We're a little late this week because things have been pretty hectic, but it's still the talk of wrestling all over social media. Dream match posts all over the place. Kenny Omega and now Impact Wrestling has put out an advertisement saying that Kenny Omega is in fact appearing on Access TV this upcoming Tuesday on Impact Wrestling.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Which is just wild.
Oh my gosh. So you know what? So I was so confused at first. I was like, okay, why are they running backstage and why is the camera still following them, right? I'm like, okay, maybe he's hurt and the camera is supposed to be off and then they didn't turn it off and I was like, what is happening? I don't know. I thought it was so weird.
Like the Maury Povich cameramen that are just like, "You are not the father," and they chase him backstage.
Yeah. I was like, what is happening? And then it didn't hit me to realize what was going on with the screwy finish. Tony Khan was pretty much like, "What, you not like this, like what are you doing?" And it was because of not him just running past, but it was him because of the finish. Like, you're so much better than this. Why did you have to do that screwy finish? You don't, not like this. You're so much better than that. And everyone backstage that they ran past, they were like, no, like, come on, man. Like, what are you thinking? Not like this. What are you doing? And of course, they're all running because it was a screwy type of finish. You know, they used an illegal object in the match, and that's why Moxley got stunned before all those other moves and got put away. So everyone was like just so disappointed and so upset. And, you know, we know from being wrestling fans that back in the day when shit like that when somebody went into business for themselves, you know, the locker room backstage would have something to do about it. And even the fans, when they believed it was real and some shit happened, they would go and try to meet you in the parking lot and try to stab you and shit like that. Yeah, it was way serious. So that's kind of what they wanted to make it look like, which I didn't get it at first. I had to be like, oh. And then, of course, we get that huge announcement, which as soon as he said Tuesday, I was like, oh, shit. Like, I knew it. And then he confirmed it. I got goosebumps you retelling it. I am so freaking excited. Like, who would have thought when we started doing this podcast covering Impact that now we're going to see freaking Kenny Omega and AEW working together?
Yeah.
My mind.
I would like to say that this should double our downloads, but who knows? But not that we do this for the downloads. We don't. We do this because we love, you know, talking about wrestling and video games. But, you know, I think it's kind of funny that, you know, a wrestler that's synonymous with video games is now going to be showing up on Impact. And so, listen, we were way ahead of this thing, Sandy, doing an Impact Wrestling and video game podcast 4 months ago. Okay, I'm just going to throw it out there.
It was like, what's it called? Foreshadowing? I think, did we make this happen? Did Kenny Omega listen to a podcast and was like, we need Impact and then Kenny Omega wrestling star to work together so that they can have a better podcast? I don't know.
I think the genius of Don Callis might have had more to do with it. But I'll put us over for that. I'll put us over for that for sure. Yeah, this feels, it's hard to kind of, because, you know, Tony Khan has said all along, we'll work with anybody. Kenny Omega also is on the record as an executive producer or whatever his title is at AEW. We'll work with anyone. If WWE had an angle that they wanted to try and run, we'd try and run it with them if they wanted to do it. They've gone as far to say that. Now we know that WWE will never run another angle with another company. It just won't happen. They have enough content that they're trying to fill on their own. They have enough whatever. But now the talk is not just stopping at Impact and AEW, but Impact, because of Don Callis, now also has a relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So there's now speculation, of course, that
with ROH.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and there's now speculation that AEW might, now that, because of course Harold has left New Japan Pro Wrestling, that AEW might also have their door open to New Japan Pro Wrestling. It will be very interesting to see what happens next from this cross promotion stuff. And I should mention, of course, that AEW, of course, does have Thunder Rosa, who is the who entered in as the NWA Women's Champion onto AEW programming, and then Serena Deeb, who is a contracted AEW wrestler, currently holds the NWA Women's title. So there's a lot of cross promotion stuff that Tony Khan is kind of masterminding here, and this is like, as a kid watching wrestling, this is what you wanted to see, right? You wanted to see everyone from everywhere wrestling together. And this feels like it's a very real possibility that we're going to see, you know, maybe Hiroshi Tanahashi show up on AEW. We might see.
You know, that was the hope back when Dynamite was first announced. You know, I know it was speculated, having all those guys, you know, leaving New Japan, that there was going to be some kind of working relationship with Kenny Omega being their top guy for so long, and having that working relationship in the States with Dynamite moving forward. But of course, things kind of got a little heated, a little complicated, and they had a little bit of a falling out when it came to AEW working with New Japan. Then we also saw the relationship that was already established with New Japan and Ring of Honor. That continued. We did see AEW having the kind of connection with CMLL, if I'm not mistaken, when Kenny was the champion.
Well, AAA.
AAA.
Yes, and going into tonight, at least Kenny is still the AAA champion. Triple Mania, when is that? Triple Mania. I don't know when it is. It's supposed to be happening this month. But yeah, so Kenny Omega is wrestling Laredo Kid for the AAA championship.
That's cool. I had no idea he was still the champion, to be honest.
Yep.
I don't feel like they mentioned that for a while. I feel like they should have. But that cross promotional thing, it's been kind of hinted here and there. We were all upset when it didn't happen initially with New Japan. Of course, we did. To me, what's exciting is that the possibility of this happening has always been there, and we've seen the good and the bad from it when it came to Ring of Honor in New Japan. That show they had at Madison Garden. What was the big criticism? That the Ring of Honor stars weren't up to par to New Japan. That the audience there to see those New Japan stars, and it just overall the big complaint was that those combined matches didn't really do anything for the people there because they just wanted to see New Japan. So it has a lot of growing pains, I guess I would be kind of the word. There's a lot of logistical issues, I guess you can say, when it comes to having your champions go and defend somewhere else. You want to make sure your champions look strong, which was a big issue with the territories. If you have a guy in your promotion that's a top guy, why would he go job out somewhere else? Because everyone wants their stars to look the best. So that can be kind of a problem, but that's not for us to decide. We are here to enjoy the possibility of seeing these stars from different promotions work with one another and have these incredible matches that we otherwise would have never been able to see. And that is what is so exciting right now, as being a wrestling fan in 2020 and moving forward. And to me, the fact that, Impact was the one to get that first scoop with a growing promotion like AEW first is so exciting, because I feel like they're always like the laughing stock, the last thought on anyone's mind. This is something that could elevate them to a whole nother level. And I've seen the criticisms online, people saying, hey, why is AEW doing this with Impact? Like, AEW doesn't need Impact, but Impact could sure use AEW. But hey, you know what? Impact has some great talent there that they could...
Yeah, I definitely think that the people who were saying that are people like me, whose first impression of it was when it wasn't so good, and then never bothered to catch back up with it. And so they don't know how freaking awesome Impact is right now. So they have that horrible impression in their mind. And yeah, it's true, AEW does have the bigger financial backing and the bigger fan base right now. But anytime that you can cross-platform, you're not only going to bring in like if you have someone who doesn't watch Marvel movies or DC movies, if all of a sudden you say, hey, we're doing a Marvel versus DC movie, even people who don't care about comics are going to be like, I want to see that kind of.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, so you're still going to pull in those outside audiences just because of the intrigue alone. So even though, they may not have as much to gain, they still have something to gain. And it's always a learning process, and more diversity and new ideas, and you're expanding your horizons. And if you can help elevate that company, then in turn, when they are in a position where they have grown substantially, that's going to be symbiotic with you as well. You have to incubate your eggs before they hatch,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I'm excited to see what we get Tuesday. There's some less revered dirt sheets that are saying it's kind of a one-off thing. But even if it is a one-off thing, and I don't trust the dirt sheets most of the time, Meltzer typically has it right. But as far as the lower dirt sheets, I don't know where they get their information from, so I don't really pay them much mind. But even if you say it is a one-time thing, Kenny's going to have a 5-minute promo on Impact. There might be another thing on Dynamite about it, and then that's it. Even just that little bit shows that more can happen and should happen, quite frankly. I mean, can you imagine, Deonna Purrazzo wrestling against, Hikaru Shida? That would blow the brakes off. You could have Rich Swann go up against Kenny Omega. That would be a really fun match. There's all kinds of things. You could see TJP go, wrestle Adam Page, or just whatever the case may be. I mean, there's so many things that could potentially open up between that partnership, and obviously the catalyst of all of this is definitely Don Callis. So, the man, he knows the business. He knows enough people. He obviously has relationships with Jericho and Omega, and obviously his position at Impact, and he's got his New Japan contacts still, I'm sure. he probably has Gato on speed dial. So we'll see what happens. I think New Japan's probably more open to different things than they have been in the past between Harold leaving and Gato's summer of weird booking. So, we'll see what happens, and I'm super excited for it. And so, kind of what that means for our show is that we're kind of, in addition to being an Impact Wrestling podcast, at least for this week and next week, we'll have to adjust from there, but we'll definitely be keeping tabs on AEW and what happens there, what comes from Kenny being on Impact, and what comes from potentially people from Impact being on Dynamite if that does happen. Definitely tune in here. We'll be breaking it down same way we do every week for Impact. And then maybe we'll have to have a few guests join us, depending on how big this is. I know there's a lot of excitement on the Social Suplex Podcast Network about this. So definitely keep your ears here. I would say keep your eyes here because Logan keeps doing great things for a visual medium. But keep your eyes open for the official 8-Bit Suplex TikTok.
Oh no.
I think I've convinced myself with this episode, Sandy, that we need one. It's what all the kids are. It's what all the kids are doing. It is what it is. So that being said, Logan, thanks for hopping on and lending your notes. Sandy, great to see you as always. And why don't you go ahead and throw down our plugs for us?
All right, so we can be found on Twitter at 8-Bit Suplex. Of course, make sure you guys check out the Social Suplex Network, and where we have tons of different content for you. We have lots of different podcasts that cover New Japan, that cover AEW. Of course, we are here covering Impact. There's so much content out there for you. Please also make sure you guys follow Josh. Josh, what's your freaking handle again? McLaughlin.
No, I didn't know what I was doing when I signed up for Twitter, and I still don't really know what I'm doing. But it's at Laughlin_Josh. Yeah, follow me on there. It's I will definitely post some scorching hot takes. No, I'm just kidding. I really won't do that. But I'm setting up the 8-Bit Suplex TikTok right now.
Are you serious?
And yeah, why not?
I'm not gonna be on the first one. I don't have makeup on.
I don't either, and neither does Logan, so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. So, and I'm just making sure because I'm going to tell people to go check it out if
Ridiculous.
It works.
I was trying to do a freaking boomerang earlier.
Oh, boomerang! That was a fun thing.
Yeah, Logan, how about you tell our listeners about your tag team?
My what? No, it's all about Logan Cruz, baby.
Okay.
Fuck that other guy. No. So you can find Logan Cruz PW on Instagram, Facebook.com/TheGifted for me and Wheezy, who's my tag team partner. You can keep an eye out for us at most of your local independent wrestling shows in Florida. We'll be there doing something or another. I don't have a Twitter because I don't need that stress. But yeah, that's pretty much all my social media.
That's awesome, and I can confirm that the at 8-Bit Suplex TikTok is officially live. So follow us on TikTok at 8-Bit Suplex. I'll put up some funny clips from the show and stuff and whatnot, including you'll see our friend of the podcast Dan Coffin in a clip dressed up as Freddie Mercury from Live Aid back during our Halloween episode. So definitely check that out. I want to, of course, talk about Pro Wrestling Tees. Make sure you get all your Social Suplex Podcast Network t-shirts on ProWrestlingTees.com/Social Suplex, including, of course, the 8-Bit Suplex t-shirt. I wear mine pretty frequently. It's a pretty nice t-shirt. And, for those of us in Florida, it's nice to have a shirt that's not black and still wrestling related. Other than that, I think that will wrap it up for this week. Sandy, Logan.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Check out next week. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be an exciting one. Can't wait to break it down with you guys. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, we'll send Logan back to his background dancing. But yeah, definitely check us out next week. We'll have a big end of the year video game episode. We promise, for those that listen for the video game portion of this. it's too big a wrestling moment to not cover. So, but with that, I guess this is where we say goodbye. So goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.